So if you manage to link onto to him, mention my name Peter from Pukudi Olive Farm in New Zealand, and then he'll know what it's all about.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would like you to explain why olive to grow here better than anywhere else, please. Could you explain a little bit?
No, he's just saying.
Olives don't grow better here than anywhere else.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
If I did, I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So I'd like to have a sentence that what's different? What is unique to grow in this country, different from another grape? Can you explain that quite well?
all the olive trees in New Zealand are imported. There's no indigenous New Zealand olive trees, so they're all imported, and they're mainly imported from Italy, Spain.
So, as your property particularly,
Yeah.
which cultivar that you are planting that you will notice that okay, this is mine. This is my prolific one.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And many years ago, two guys ran a nursery in Kaikooi. They were called the Johnson brothers.
Yeah.
And they trialed 10 different cultivars of
Yeah.
varieties of olive trees, and they gave them a name because their surname was Johnson. They named them J1, J10. And it turned out that the variety J5
Right.
did the most vigorously
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah.
So mainly up here, the olive trees are called J5.
Ah, okay.
But what are J5? As
yeah.
I stand here, we do not know. And that's another very long story. So
Okay.
we can take leaves and we can send the leaves off to the lab in Athens, and they could do a DNA analysis on them and tell us exactly what cultivar they are. And then there's another lab in France that can do it, but the lab in France, in my opinion, is not as good as the lab in Greece. But anyways, this last year, another fellow up here, he sent some leaves off to the lab in France.
Yeah.
But the lab in France, when they did the analysis, the leaves were already 3 months old, and the DNA data bank that they have in France is relatively small.
Right.
Whereas the DNA data bank that they have in Athens is over 1,000 cultivars. And so, anyways, the result from the lab in Athens, in France, said that the J5 is actually an Italian variety called Frantoio.
Italian variety?
Yeah, called Frantoio from Tuscany.
Okay.
And most of us up here over the years have sort of thought that J5 is Frantoio.
Yeah.
But then other people say no, it's
ข้อ
not.
มูลเกี่ยวกับ
It's,
โอลิฟอ
the
อยล์
oil
นะคะ
doesn't
คุณปี
taste
เตอร์
like
อ
the
ธิบาย
oil
ให้
from
ฟัง
Frantoio.
น้องๆมีข้อสงสัยอะไรก็จะถาม
It's not
นะ
the
คะ
same
Right.
pressing process as with Frantoio, so
No,
there's
that
still argument
good
about it.
Okay,
question.
right. DNA matching that, but
Yeah.
the taste doesn't.
So about 4 years ago, we started a project to, it cost $1,500 to get the leaves analyzed at the lab in Athens.
Right.
So we started a project to collect $1,500 to send the leaves off to Athens, and it was during COVID.
Yeah.
So we got up to about $700 or $800. So I phoned the lab and I said, okay, it's looking fiscally viable now. How many leaves do you need? So, just a handful. But we have to get them in 24 hours.
อ๋อ
There's no
I
direct
said,
flight.
24 hours? Yeah. So, well, that's impossible, So the project died. So the lab in France, when they analyzed the leaves, they were 3 months old. They weren't 24 hours old.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, the lab in France charges 80 New Zealand dollars, not 1,500. So it's such a disparity that I'm a bit skeptical about the results. But that's what they said at the lab in France, that it was French.
Yeah.
So, but no, the trees don't do, none of the trees do better in New Zealand than they do in Europe.
Yeah.
But
So
New Zealand produces very